The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Aldo Ogbe, is calling for increased participation of state governments in agriculture. The minister, who was speaking at an event organized by the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agriculture, says the federal government's intervention in the agricultural sector can only be more effective when state governments play the role of financing the sector. But he says that the federal government plans to remove all forms of hindrances to financing agriculture across the country.
It's the first in the series of meetings organized by the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agriculture, NIRSAL, and the National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Mines and Agriculture to proffer solutions on agro-businesses. The forum brought together members of the private sector, captains of industries and government officials. First, the Minister of Agriculture laments the poor participation of some state governments in agriculture, stressing that a lot can be achieved if they have a rethink by keying into financing of the sector.
You'll be shocked to hear that while we talk about agri, even now, there are states that don't have one working tractor for farmers, a single tractor to help a farmer plow his field.
The managing director of NIRSAL speaks on why it has become imperative to fund agriculture, thereby making it attractive to potential investors.
What you observe today is exactly the mandate of NIRSAL as handed over to us by the Central Bank of Nigeria. How do you get actors in the value chain from primary production all the way through processing to wholesale and retail and export and domestic market? How do you create a handshake between them? How do you get them financed in a systematic way? And what you see here, Nasima, actually represents that private sector.
Officials of the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agriculture will be collaborating with the National Association of Commerce, Mines and Agriculture to remove bottlenecks often encountered in doing agribusiness.
This is PPP, private-public partnership, and therefore we need to tell the government the areas they should come into us, giving us the infrastructures, giving us the funding that is in single digits so that we can move on.
The conference also featured a panelist session where speakers harped on leveraging on the benefit of the agri sector to national development.
Time now to shift our gears to business news with Emana Amawe.
Hello, welcome to Business News. The central bank is reintroducing a 500 billion naira export financing fund, as well as a 50 billion naira direct intervention facility to diversify the nation's revenue base. After a meeting with officials of the Nigeria Export-Import Bank and some exporters, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele told journalists that a framework for the loan disbursement will soon be made available.
Issue at this meeting is that we decided to bring back to the table the 500 billion naira export stimulation loans that we had proposed about 2 years ago, as well as the 50 billion naira direct intervention funding for the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, Nexim Bank. We also observed that, and the exporters themselves agreed, that there were some elements of undocumented export transactions, and that they have also agreed that they will put a stop to the incidence of undocumented exports, because if we provide them cheap funding at maximum of 9%, what it does is that it reduces their procurement or production costs, and by giving them those kind of cheap funding, it should be easy for them to make money without necessarily seeking to conduct undocumented export activities where they think they can make money under the table. All transactions that will be done and that will receive funding from the Central Bank of Nigeria will be for documented export transactions. And we're also saying that before those facilities of funding is provided to them, these exporters are going to commit through their banks or through Nexim. They will commit to the volume of export earnings that will be routed back into the country to support our own activities that we need to fund, even import operations.
Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele. Now, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry is poised to work with state and federal governments to optimize Nigeria's energy potentials. That's according to the new president, Mr. Pt.3. In a chat with journalists after a meeting with captains of industry, Mr. Ruwashe explains that the plan is to facilitate Nigeria's ease of doing business.
Into what the federal government is doing now, ease of doing business, we see how we can tackle that. Power problem, we see how we can also direct government's policy to favor that. We were told that we have excess capacity now, which is to be taken over by private sector. This is one of the things we shall work on. Fortunately, the Honorable Minister contacted us today, and this will be the first thing that we are going to work on to see how we can actually take over this 20 megabytes of power that is available for takeoff. We will do what we've been doing before. Our problems are not different, but we are going to tackle them in a different way to achieve results.
To some company news now, 5 out of 16 bidders have made it to the next stage to acquire Nigeria's fourth biggest telecoms operator, 9 Mobile. The successful bidders are Airtel, Globacom, Smile, Helios Investment Partners and Teleology Holdings Limited. Earlier, other bidders, which included MTN, Entel, Virgin Mobile from the United Kingdom and Vodacom of South Africa, tendered their interest to Barclays, 9 Mobile's financial advisor. The companies are required to submit a firm financial bid and conduct due diligence by December the 31st. In July, Nigerian regulators intervened to save 9 Mobile, formerly called Etisalat Nigeria, from collapse and receivership from creditors after the company defaulted in a $1.2 billion syndicated loan from 13 local banks. More company news now. Flour Mills of Nigeria has filed an application to the stock exchange to raise 39.86 billion naira through rights offered to existing shareholders of the company. The company says it plans to sell 1.47 billion ordinary shares at 27 naira, which is a 21% discount to an earlier price of 34 naira and 13 kobo on the NSE on Friday. In addition, the flour manufacturer plans to offer 9 new shares for every 16 already held by its shareholders. Meantime, the company's share price rose by 0.86% to close at 35 naira on Friday. And that's it on Business News tonight. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Emana Amawe. It's back to Gimba.
Well, the Benue state government is asking women to buy into mechanized agriculture and allied businesses to grow the informal business sector of the economy. Governor Samuel Ortom made this call while declaring open the second Benue Women Economic Summit in Makurdi. The wife of the Benue state governor and participants at the event also asked for increased women engagement during deliberations at both socio-economic and political levels.
Governor Samuel Ortom arrives for the second edition of the Benue Women Economic Summit. The governor, in company of his wife and top government officials, proceeds to inspect agricultural and allied products produced by Benue female entrepreneurs on exhibition. Attention soon shifts to the technical session, where resource persons, including a business feasibility partnership and investment group from Morocco, gives useful business tips.
To help the cause of our states, today and tomorrow for our children. And let me add, if I may, that the state is facing an existential state of security, but as women, let us stand behind our men.
The wife of the Benue state governor encourages women to take advantage of Nigeria's increasing food demand and get busy with business ventures.
As we face the challenge of moving away from oil as a sole revenue earning commodity, we are all challenged, including government, corporate bodies and individuals, to evolve more creative ways of surviving the difficult times. In building the nation's economy, women cannot afford to stay behind if they must continue to be valued as productive members of society.
Before declaring the summit open, Governor Ortom challenges women to move beyond lip service and take active steps to become entrepreneurs.
In Benue State here, we have provided 100 million naira out of the loan scheme we secured from Central Bank to women. It is important to remind women and indeed all Benue people to form and operate viable cooperatives. This has been said here. You have heard it. Very, very important. You cannot do it alone. When you come together, you share ideas. You share even the risks together. And it's easier. For microfinance banks, you don't even need collateral, certificates of occupancy as your collateral.
The two-day Benue Women Economic Summit is aimed at empowering women through agriculture and trading, which will improve their economic status.
At least 1,000 employees, out of which 80% are widows, can now boast of being professionals in making of fabric at the Cross River State Garment Factory. The gesture is part of efforts by the Cross River State government towards encouraging self-reliance in the coming generation rather than over-reliance on white-collar jobs.
The Cross River State Garment Factory is a project initiated under the Ben Ayade administration aimed at promoting economic development of the state and contributing to the nation's gross domestic product. Already, the factory has created over 3,000 jobs for Cross Riverians. On a solidarity walk through major streets of Calabar, the state capital, staff of the clothing plant danced to the mini carnival, appreciating the opportunity to be employed.
He has trained us from the scratch to become professionals. So we are just here to say thank you. That's why we are celebrating. And to show Cross River State what we can do and the world. That garment factory is real and that we do so many things. We produce clothes. We sew military clothes. We sew uniforms. We brand T-shirts. We do even pajamas, even sportswears.
The factory's management says it has brought out the entrepreneurial skills in indigents.
We will use this 1 year, all of this 1 year, to be able to train the staff to efficiency, and we are optimistic that our products are acceptable in the marketplace, because quite a lot of professionals in the apparel sector have confirmed to the fact that this factory is purpose-built, and of course this is one of the biggest factories across the group by size in terms of the square meter and the facilities involved and the equipment involved.
The state government is happy to fill this need of reducing unemployment, fulfilling a part of its promise to the people.
They have developed their skills because of the massive training they have received. Because a whole lot of them, when they came here initially, it was difficult for them to even put thread inside a needle. But today, all of them are now world-class, garment producers, in which they can produce for any factory or any brand in the world.
The Cross River State Garment Factory, which was built within the space of a year, is equipped with over 1,000 modern sewing machines and other accessories.
A former president of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Mrs. Boma Ayomide Alabi, wants the Nigerian government to go all out and rescue its citizens caught up in the situation in Libya. She says that the general call by governments asking those to help who need help to contact the Nigerian mission by email or phone is not enough. The lawyer also wants the government at all levels in Nigeria to do more in terms of welfare and to discourage migration across the Mediterranean and the Sahara Desert.
We've had a government that has not been centered or focused on the welfare of the citizens, as a result of which people feel hopeless and feel they have no opportunities here and have to go elsewhere seeking greener pastures. This has been ongoing for years. How much have we done to inform Nigerians so that they don't continue to make these hazardous trips? That's the job of the state. I, as an individual, can only inform those immediately around me. And I don't see that as a priority. The government has to make that a priority. Now, Chad is is threatening to go to war in Libya to protect citizens if they're selling. I don't see that level of engagement. I see the Foreign Office saying, okay, here's our email address and here are phone numbers to contact us. If I'm in a slave depot, being beaten up and sold as a slave, I certainly will not have access to email or phones.
Still ahead on the news at 10, FIBA awards Philippines, Japan and Indonesia hosting rights of the 2023 Basketball World Cup. That's coming up in sports news. Stay with us.